What's up, guys? Welcome back to the American Dream podcast. I am here with a special guest. We have Ryan Davis, CEO and founder of Service Legend, and then CEO and founder of, hold on, let me get it right, Cardinal Concrete Coatings.
Yep, CCC.
I love that,
man.
man.
A little tongue twister.
I know, it was, thank you for coming, by the way. I know it was super last minute. It was kind of like you just come into Houston and then you just hit me up and I'm like, dude, let's come in.
Yeah.
And before we start, I actually wanted to give you a book, and I wanted to do it for marketing purposes, but I'm going to give you a copy of my book, The American Dream.
Oh, man.
Which you can buy on Amazon.
I love it.
The American Dream by Stephen Martinez. So
I love it, man. Dude.
Absolutely.
I need one of these in my shelf because you were on the podcast, the Service Legend podcast, earlier this week, and there was somebody that commented after the podcast and was like, where's the book? So I went and found it on Amazon, dropped a link in there for him, and I think he picked it up. So
absolutely.
I'm glad to have one of my own.
Dude, and that's one of the things I want to do too with like all my friends and owners and all that good stuff. They all have books. Like Tommy has a book, Dan has a book, and I want to have this like little library of all, like an autobiography. So if someone's like, dude, like where'd you get that? I'm like, oh, they're all my friends.
I know it, man.
And then they're like, did you read it? I'm like, no, I haven't read it, but I'm just there to support.
I know. I need a book as well. And the interesting thing is, a previous coach of mine, Josh Nelson, who I had the privilege and honor of serving as a mentor and coach in that program. But he talked about that where the authors are always the experts. The speakers are always the experts. So I'm right there with you, man. Like, I would love to write a book. What inspired you? I know you're interviewing me, but what inspired you with this, dude? Because I mean, I've heard about the event earlier this week.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
The book itself?
Yeah.
Well, one of them was credibility. So a lot of my friends that have successful businesses, there always results to a sort of credibility within, your product or service. So like, let's say if you have a restaurant or you're providing X or Y product, but you don't have a website, your credibility is really low.
Right.
So in this space that I'm trying to kind of attack in and provide within the Spanish Latino market, obviously there's more fundamental sources in terms of me having a book because it makes me more credible. And also I just wanted to really expand and give them the opportunity of what I learned throughout my experiences and all that good stuff. And I wanted to touch base with you a little bit about, because I know a little bit about you, but for anyone listening, a little bit about who you are, your story. Feel free to tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, I love it, man. Well, first off, man, appreciate the time. Pumped to be here in Houston, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not very humid, so that's super nice. But coming in November, man. I'm kind of thinking where I should go back to, or how far I should go back. What do you think?
Young Ryan.
Oh man. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm still young.
How old are you?
I just turned 30.
You're young.
All right.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I got a little gray hair now. Rubbing here, but I feel young. Growing up, man, I would say I grew up in a normal family, middle class. My dad was a teacher. When I was in high school, he started a power washing company as well. It didn't really go anywhere. He didn't have the resources, the mentorship, the coaching, and all of the things that we have access to now, whether it's podcasts, books, whatever it is, webinars, events, like the American Dream event. He didn't have that. So he went on and had a very successful career as a teacher. And then my mom was in the same industry, in the school industry, or education rather, and ended up kind of progressing into the college industry of education, and ended up getting a PhD and things like that. Awesome. My mom and dad have always been very educated. So my dad's got a bachelor's, master's, mom bachelor's, master's, PhD. My older brother bachelor's, master's, and I barely graduated high school myself. But that's kind of the environment I grew up in. I played sports, every single sport: soccer, baseball, football, baseball, everything. We were always very active. My dad and my mom, both, their parents were not around very, very much, or weren't very involved, even if they were. And so it was important for my parents to spend a lot of time with us. And so for me, it was sports. And my dad. So get this, I never played a sport growing up where my dad wasn't the coach. My entire life.
So you always started there.
Yeah. Well, you would think so, right? The majority of the time, I would start, but I was pretty good, at the time. But and then I went to high school football, and he coached there too.
Wow.
So I mean, that's kind of what I saw growing up was not a ton of money. I didn't see my parents chase their dreams like you and I are right now, and all, like our friends are. But I saw them just be so gracious with their time to serve us, to make sure that we had the childhood that they never had, And it's funny because as you grow up, you don't realize those things then, right? You only realize those things now, looking back. And but yeah, so that's how I grew up. And as I got a little bit older, ending high school, when I was 17, 18, I had a girlfriend at the time, a lot of us guys and girls in high school. Yeah. And she ended up getting pregnant the last semester of high school.
So you were how old?
I was 17, just turning 18.
Okay.
And so, I could have went and played college football. I was pretty good. I probably wouldn't have done very well or done anything further than that at all. But, I could have had that opportunity. But, I ended up getting her pregnant. Obviously, at the time, it was very challenging and scary and all these different things. It's not the type of family I grew up in where that was like a normal thing, you know. Not to say that it's normal in any environment, but it was just very wow.
Yeah,
like what is going on here?
Yeah, the whole concept, I guess, is go to school, get your degree, get your job, and then you have a family and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened. And so I went right to work at that point in time, into sales. But I also found myself getting into a lot of trouble. Like you were talking about earlier, kind of your notepad there. That's where I experienced just bad decisions, was using drugs, I would just kind of put it together in a bundle of just bad decisions. And really, that's kind of where I kind of, like a fork in the road, if you will, where I started to not listen to my parents, not listen to the wisdom and the guidance of the Lord, the discernment of the Lord. And I kind of went away and thought I knew better, thought I knew everything, right? 19, 20 years old.
Yeah.
And so that lasted, dude, until I was 25 years old, 26 years old, roughly. I think it was 25 until I cleaned my life up. And shortly after that, I started the marketing company. And then a year after that, started Cardinal, both multi-million-dollar businesses within the first 12 months.
That's awesome. Congrats.
And the Lord just really started to really guide me through my life when I started to make better decisions.
Yeah. You're preaching to the choir.
Yeah. Man. So, it's kind of a little summary, man.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's funny how a lot of the entrepreneurs are very successful people. We're kind of black sheep. I know we spoke about that in your previous podcast. I would be the same way. I always used to get in trouble. I remember one time, it was a football game, prom, or was it not prom, homecoming. It was a homecoming football game. I was a junior in high school.
Those are always the games where some problems happen, right?
Yeah, so I put vodka in a water bottle. And then for some apparent reason, I could have paid the entry fee, but I decided to be a hooligan and just jump over the fence and not pay. And then I got caught with it. And then the cop's like, "What do you have in that water bottle?" And I'm trying to spill it out, and he smells it. Long story short, I ended up in alternative school for 30 days. So I get him. I used to get into a lot of trouble, and it was one of those where I hit rock bottom maybe I want to say 7-8 months ago. You know what I mean? And I guess for me, I wanted to ask you, when was your moment in life where you hit rock bottom, where you're like, I need to get out of here?
Yeah, man, a bunch of times, you know. And I think rock bottom is, everyone has their own perception of it. And I think you can keep hitting a new one. That's the crazy thing about rock bottom, is you can keep digging. There's no, Earth has sure, if you kept digging, you'd hit the center of the Earth. But when it comes to that, there's you can just keep digging with regrets and all these different things. But for me, so during that season, when I between 18 and 25, I had a season where I was homeless, literally. Wow. So I'll tell you this one. Right before I got sober, so we were living in Phoenix, my wife and I. I'm 30 now. We met about 10 years ago when I was selling cars in Phoenix. So right when we got together, I was in the middle of my stuff and tried to hide it as best I could. And so I saw that there was more with her and with life, and I really wanted it. I just couldn't do it, But it got a little bit further, and she got pregnant.
Wow.
And so But that didn't really do it. Like,
Yeah.
but while she was pregnant, we made a decision and I went to rehab in Temecula. Amazing place. But right before that, going to rehab, I was like, let me just go hang out a little bit and kind of get into some trouble before
like
I actually.
Goodbye.
Yeah. And it was like weeks of like just literally just like kind of doing whatever, staying wherever. And while she was pregnant, right? And while she was, obviously communicating with me about how disappointed she was and probably a lot of fear of like, is he gonna really do this, So that right there was because, Presley, who is my daughter who we had when I was 18, I didn't get the opportunity to really be the father that I should have been in those first few years. I have the opportunity, I have the privilege now to serve her as a father now, but and we have an amazing relationship, spend a lot of time together, but I thought about that. I'm like, man, like, am I gonna do this again? Like, am I not gonna be around again? Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And so that for me, like that feeling of like fear of missing out was it.
Wow, that's amazing, man. That's really inspirational. You pretty much went from being homeless to being a multi-million-dollar owner of a company. That's amazing. I have kind of like a similar thing too, where this was maybe almost a year ago. I nearly got evicted. Like, I got evicted pretty much. And to this day, I still have the eviction letter as a motivational thing. Like, I'll never in my life go through that scenario again. And it was one of those moments where, I'm young, right? I was careless. I wasn't thinking straight, and I had the money, and all the money would go on, going out, alcohol, drugs, and you kind of get sucked into that, that lifestyle, which is, really sad. And then it took me away from the important things, which was family, my health, spiritual, mental health, emotional health, and again, being connected with God, which I think was the most important thing. And you're right, it's one of those where you don't even realize it, but it's slowly kind of it's a ripple effect, I think. Right. When you do one bad thing, it starts to, and the same thing though, when you snap out of it, and I went to rehab, I learned so much stuff. Yeah. Like the concepts of being educated in certain stuff that I wasn't before, the law of attraction, the way your mind works is phenomenal. And I kind of knew it to a little extent, but never to that depth when I went to rehab. Yeah. And no one actually knows this until maybe I started opening about rehab maybe like a month ago.
Oh, wow, really?
Because I thought I was like, it's no one's business, I'm just going to keep it to myself. But I figured, like, why not, speak about it? Because there's someone out there that's going through the same stuff, whether it's, emotional pain, mental health, a disconnection from God, or they just feel like their life isn't going according to plan. Yeah. When the moment you snap out of it and really just start to value your internal traits and characteristics and start to level up, things start to flow.
Yeah, no, it's so true. Like I was telling you, I'm gonna go see Billy. I think we're gonna go have dinner at some like famous, like Spanish restaurant. It's like
Ninfa's?
I think so. Yeah, that's where we're going. So I'm excited about that. I think it's in the Woodlands. That's where he lives.
There's like 2 or 3,
Yeah. Anyways, he sent me a sermon that he was preaching 3 weeks ago. So here, I'll back up a little bit. I wanted to go spend time with Billy. I wanted to go get some discipleship and be around a man that I look up to. I want to be more like. Simple as that. I just texted him and I'm like, hey, can I come see you? That's it. And then he just texts back, yes. And I finally talked to him today. I haven't even talked to him on the phone yet about scheduling. We were texting. I talked to him today and he was like, yeah, I don't know what the plan is, but you said you want to come out. I just said yes. Yeah. And then he sent me a sermon from 3 weeks ago, and it was on desires. And it was on, and the thing I took away from Billy was, he says that what do you say? Desire always precedes action. And so like when we take action on stuff, whether it's like, let's say I'm going to go do something bad or good, whatever it is, I'm going to say something bad, I'm going to do something, whatever it is, that action, before that action, there's always a desire. So it's like, if you're, let's say you're struggling with alcohol, the action of you going to the bar and not spending time with your family that night, well, it always was preceded by the desire to go there. And so, let's start there. Like, let's focus on the desire, because see, the Lord, what Billy was saying is that the Lord desires our heart too. Well, the enemy also desires our heart. And so, but then again, going back to actions, that's where it all starts. And so if we want to change our actions, basically it's like the concept of you change your input, you change your output. you know. And so if I can start to, like you said, be closer to God versus further from God, well, then He's going to place the desires of His heart in my heart, and so that is going to change my output. And it's very simple to talk about, but it's super hard to live it out.
Easier said than done.
So hard.
There's a saying that I learned too. It's you can't do the same things over and over and expect a different result. And it was one of those where it kind of clicked, and I was like, I don't think anyone's born a bad person. I think we all, in a certain way, deep down, want to be good people, right? And if you can't help people, at least not do harm to people. Unless there's like a war, someone's causing harm to you, that's totally different. But in that sense, when you really want to become a better person, you have to really take yourself out of that equation and plug yourself into, the more important things like spending time with your family.
Yeah.
Praying's important too, I think. Anything that really helps you just distract yourself from that stuff, because the moment you're in there, you're just sucked in.
Yeah.
So for a quick question for you, so when you were homeless, how was that? Like in that moment, like take me through that.
Man, it was crazy. I remember one time, I'll never forget this time, because it was raining and then there's no home, right? So, think about it. It's raining and there's no home. So you just get hit by rain, right? So it's not very fun. I'll never forget it because it was freezing as well. Yeah. And I had my really good buddy with me, he was my best friend, Now it's just like a road dog, I guess. But, like if any of you have gone through like a season like that, you always have like these friends. They're not friends. We all know that. But so I had that guy with me, and we just had to go across town for some reason, and through the rain. And I remember crossing the street, and I jumped right in a puddle. And this puddle was like, it had to be like 2 feet deep. I'm just all over. And then he didn't land in the puddle for some reason, and so he was already across. And I'm sitting there, and that's a moment where I started thinking to myself, I'm like, dude, I don't want to do this. Like, what is this? And he's over there just like, come on, dude, you take us so long. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't really want to do this anymore, And I remember that night, it was like, we were like sleeping on some stairs or whatever, just hanging out. And I remember just bawling my eyes out. And he was just like, man, like, he was all weirded out. And then I was just like, yeah, you know what? We're not the same, man. I know that the Lord put us both here. Like in my head, I was thinking that, but we're not the same. Like, I know I'm meant for way more than this.
Absolutely.
I have a wife, beautiful wife that loves me. I have an amazing family, and I knew that there was something more for me. But that was probably the craziest time, or the most desperate time. Was like it's freezing, jumping in that puddle, and I had jeans on, so it is
you have no home too. Like, where can you shower or change or anything like that?
Yeah, I remember another time where I was really thirsty. I saw a Carl's Jr. cup on the side of the road, picked it up, went in, and got a drink. So like I've done those things. Wow. And so, yeah, like even right now, like I was talking to one of the team members here earlier, this summer I went through a restructure, and I restructured a few team members out, including a partner. And looking back now, I just have, I have so many regrets at how I went about that. I could have went about that a lot better, but partnerships are a lot like marriages, and you can't just be like, hey, we're done, and then never talk to somebody again. And that's kind of what I did in some ways, regardless of the reasoning or the things of why. It's just things like that where, you look back and you reflect, and you realize that you could do so much different, so. And so
I want to, I guess, get into your mind, right? Like you're homeless, you're going through all this stuff. In terms of that situation, how are people perceiving you? Did you like as of now, if you see a homeless person, do you see yourself? Yeah, I do. I also I don't like I never like panhandled or anything like that. I have a lot of empathy, but I also know what I've done now with my life, and so I do see people, and I think homeless, there's different ways to look at it. It's like there's people out there that like are severely mental, they're not even alcoholics. It's a whole different.
They're gone.
I know what you're talking about.
And then there's the homeless people that are more like self-sabotaging themselves. Luckily, I wasn't doing it for years. I'm so thankful that I got out of that world. But some people, you're talking about their whole life, and that's where it turns into a mental thing, I think, a lot of times. But when I see them, man, I just feel so grateful and so thankful that I'm like driving a car on my way back to my house, And sometimes, I'll even get emotional about it, I don't give them money though. I'm not a big money giver to homeless people. I'm more of a, hey, I'm gonna go buy you food. Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna go buy you toothbrush, things like that. Like I'm gonna actually take my time out of my day to go help versus like giving them money because I know where it's gonna go. At least that's my thought process about it. But yeah, man, it's my family. I'll tell you this. When I was out there, I got to a point where nobody from my family would answer a phone call.
Wow.
Nobody. Not even my mom would sometimes do that. It got to a point where my dad was like, just like, no.
Why do you think they do that? Was it more them doing tough love, or was it?
I think I caused so much damage with my words, with my actions in those years that, yeah, it was tough love. And my parents are followers as well, and so I imagine they probably got some good advice from people that they looked up to or a pastor. And I think that was the best decision that they could have done is like, just like, hey, if you're not going to be positive and serving and wanting to better yourself, like, stop using me, right? And so I was just constantly using them. So yeah, they wouldn't answer, nothing.
And at the moment you're like, damn, like, why aren't they not talking to me? But now later on you understand why they were doing it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I got really angry actually a couple times, specifically at my dad and my older brother, because I was like, my boys, right? Like, come on, like, help me out, right?
Family.
And yeah, I got to the point where they didn't want to help me out. But now, now looking back, I completely understand. As a matter of fact, like, I've been in scenarios where I had to like basically kind of do what they did to me, with others. So yeah, it's an interesting full circle perspective.
It's crazy how life does roller coasters. One day you're getting an eviction notice, the next day you're running a multi-million-dollar company.
Yeah, it's incredible, man.
Yeah.
I would never think that I would have the wife I have, the family I have, the businesses, the friends, the everything. And here's the crazy part though. Here's the even crazier part is even going through that, you would think that I would never take things for granted ever again, right? Still do. I still have taken things for granted at times. I would say over the past year and a half, roughly, I found myself distancing myself from the Lord. And I say distancing myself because I feel like I chose it. But in the middle of it, you don't realize that. But now looking back, I'm like, I chose to do that. And what I mean more practically is I was overly focusing on money, success, and growing my business. And I lost sight on some of my core priorities.
Core values, yeah, absolutely.
Yep, and so it can happen. It can happen if you're not careful.
So let me ask you a question. At that moment, when you were kind of in the rock bottom, did you feel like, I guess, quote unquote, God hated you? Did you feel like you were disconnected totally from your spiritual side of it? Or were you, like, on the contrast, were you like trying to get closer to him to help you? How was your mindset at that time?
I would say, the majority of the time was pretty angry.
So you're angry at God.
Yeah, angry at God. Not realizing that I should have been angry at myself. But yeah, angry at God. And I would say, I didn't start really seeking the Lord, months later until I got sober. It was almost more out of why I decided, I was like, honestly, I think the big thing was I didn't want to repeat history of not being around when my daughter was born, or those first few years. That really haunted me. Like, I was just like very fearful of that, like very fearful of, basically repeating my history.
Absolutely.
That was a very scary thought for me.
And so in terms of, you're going through your life, right? And then, so you're homeless and you go to rehab, you get cleaned. And then that jump that made you pretty much run a multi-million-dollar company, how was that transition? Like, what did you learn, or what was going on through your mind, I guess, that helped you just kind of pivot to the next level?
Yeah, so when I got out of rehab, my first job was at Panera Bread. It was like 3 weeks, cleaning toilets. And I was really good at it, dude. Like, dude, I was good. But I was in a place, like, that's where it started for me. I was like, I'm going to take over the world. And I always knew, like, I'm telling you, when I was a kid, I always had this feeling that I always thought that God made me special for some reason, and I couldn't figure out what that was. Early years growing up, it was more pride. I'm like, I'm good at football, or I'm faster than people, or I'm this, and so I felt kind of pride and ego there. But I realized, that God did have something special for me. I just didn't know what it was. So when I got out of rehab, I had that fire in me. I'm going to go find that. And so Panera Bread, cleaning toilets. But you know what? My wife loved me because I was working hard every day, and that made me happy. And so that was enough for me at that point. I had a few other little jobs there. Landed a really good sales job, really good money, and got let go because that department got furloughed. And it was like the end of the world. We blew through some of our savings that we had, and I had to go live with my parents in Bakersfield. So from Temecula, California up to Bakersfield.
How old were you then?
That was like 5 years. So, I was like 26.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was embarrassing, right? Because we just had our baby. I just got married.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
you're barely now kind of getting on your feet.
Yeah, like I got sober. What the heck? How come I got fired? But you know what? At this point, I wasn't blaming God. I was like, you know what? It's okay. It's all good. I was in that season, in that mindset. So, but I go to Bakersfield and I'm like, God, what is this going to be? I got to go back to my parents' house. Now, just to be clear, my parents had a great house. They're great people. It wasn't like I was in a basement and it was like, it was fine, but still embarrassing when I was on that come up of like my mindset. But I landed a job as a commercial estimator for a like 8-figure flooring and coating company. So they did like carpet, VCT, all that type of stuff commercially. And so I was bidding projects like on a TV screen in a room. And I really, at first I was like, what is this, right? But prior to that, I had never found fulfillment or purpose in work yet. I was always really good at sales, but I never found fulfillment or purpose. And so I got this job, and very shortly after I started, I'm like, man, this is cool. Like, I just love this, like, home improvement construction. Like, I was developing relationships with general contractors, project managers, architects, bidding on projects like $100,000, $500,000, $5 million projects. And then they brought on coatings. And so I was bidding like sealed concrete, urethane cements, and all these different coating services. And so that was really, really cool. Got a lot of experience. But me, I'm like ADD, extrovert, and I needed to be like around more people. So there was a company, a painting company locally that was doing a couple $1 million a year, very well known. And so I went and got the job there as sales and marketing manager. And 3 months after I got there, they started a concrete coating division. And so I did all the Facebook ads, I did in-home sales. That business was in business for 40 years before I got there. So it was like structured, established, the brand, but there was a lot of deficiencies, a lot of things where I'm like, hey, I think you could do different things better. But anyways, and so I was doing the marketing there, learned a lot about the painting industry, the concrete coating industry. And so that's kind of how it got into business. And I came home one day to my wife and I'm like, hey, I think I could do marketing for other painting companies. I'm like, man, we're just crushing it for this guy. I mean, absolutely crushing it. And, my wife was the only one that really believed in me,
And she was with you since you were homeless, like the whole trajectory of your whole life. She was always, would you consider her, your wife, to be like a rock or a foundation to who you are? Yeah,
she's like my best friend completely. She's seen it all, I'm 30. We met when I was 2021. So
how important would you say it is to pick the right partner in your life?
Man, I have no clue what
you would be
without what I'd be doing without her. I mean, the Lord definitely put her in my life for a reason. I'm not sure why he put me in her life, but but I know why. I know
a test of patience.
Yeah. I know why he put her in my life, but no, man, like, she's my rock 100%, and she's just an amazing mother. And she's also a business partner.
Nice.
So like when we first started the marketing company, dude, I have a photo, I have to find it. We had Penelope's little, it was like a Toy Story little like table, little tiny one with like a Buzz Lightyear on it and everything. She's like has a picture, a little tiny like Google Chrome laptop that we could afford, and she's just like this, like doing admin work. We had like 10 clients, and memories like that, man, make it all worth it.
Yeah, no, I bet. I think I've learned kind of like the hard way. I've had two relationships where you know, I know what I want and I know what I don't want. And it's very important to pick the right people. You know what I mean? And I mean, I'm not married yet, I don't have kids, but I can only imagine, you know, how helpful it is and how grateful you are to have someone that's supportive as your wife.
Yeah.
So then moving forward, you had the digital marketing company, and then from there, what happened?
Yeah, so started the marketing company. That company, Steve Holloway Painting, became our first client. Started charging him $1,000 a month, boom, right away. And this was in 2019 when we started our marketing company.
And then so the $1,000 a month, is this more of like are you looking at SEO? Does that include the pay-per-click?
That was just Facebook ads that we did for him.
Okay, so you would kind of strategize it and market it and geo-field it and all that good stuff.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. We would, he did exterior painting, cabinet painting, and then concrete coatings, which is exactly who we work with now. That's why we work with who we work with. And I never liked the marketing companies that just like choose a niche, or they just, you know, I loved the fact that I actually knew the space. You know, I knew the space, not just knew how to market the space, you know. So we've been able to really serve companies in a different way than traditional marketing companies because, you know, we've been there, done that, you know.
Yeah. How important is that? That's a good question, actually. In terms of, let's say I have a company and you're specifically focused in one niche, in terms of just being broad, how do you think that brings more value to a product or service?
Yeah, 100%. Like even if you're like, I think niching down is so important. And then as you scale, you can bring on niches, but you're gonna have systems for each one, you know? So it's like, if you're gonna start a concrete coating company, I mean, I was talking to a guy on the way over here on the plane, and starting a concrete coating company, and you should start with one service, you know? One service, because if it's not trainable, duplicatable, and repeatable, you know, operations is gonna be really inefficient. And so I would say starting with a niche is so super important, but even what's working now is having a niche within the niche. So like in concrete coatings, there's all types of different things, but we work with concrete coating companies that specialize in flake and metallic residential. That's pretty much who we work with. And then painting contractors, it's like we mainly work with painting contractors that are doing exterior painting and cabinet painting, residentially. So it's like, even for us, we niche down because I can train new team members better, our systems, our SOPs, things like that.
That's awesome. And then in terms of so that's the marketing service, right? And then you have the concrete coating.
Cardinal, yeah.
Cardinal, what's that one?
So, you know, it's kind of funny. So I wanted to start the coating company first, but I didn't have enough money at the time.
Yeah.
And my wife and I actually went out and did a job ourselves before we started the marketing company. Her and I both laying down epoxy basically it was hilarious. But we started Cardinal a year after starting Service Legend. So we started Service Legend in 2019, and then Cardinal in July of 2020. Our first install was August 12th of 2020. So just over 3 years in business now. And that business did $1.5 million cash collected in 10 and a half months.
Nice.
So that was kind of a proof of concept. My parents, you know, retired. And so I'm partnering with my mom, dad, and my older brother in Cardinal. And the coolest thing about Cardinal is today's Veterans Day. So thank you so much for
it is.
all of the veterans
Thank
for
you
your
to all the
service.
veterans, yeah, absolutely.
My older brother's a veteran, but he was in Kabul in Afghanistan when we started Cardinal. And so we started Cardinal in July of 2020. He's in Kabul, and there's all types of stuff going on. I mean, like we're calling him and there's like, boop, it was crazy. And then that December, based on Cardinal, and we scaled so fast, had 2 crews by I think 4 or 5 months. That was the reason why we could get him back in the States. And so Cardinal was much more than just a proof of concept for me or my business, but my parents, you know, in retirement, something for them to do. My dad had that power washing company that kind of failed, if you will, or, you know, a long time ago. So this was an opportunity for him to come through and really show the world like what he could do. Get my brother home from Afghanistan. So it was like just, you know, it was much bigger than myself.
Absolutely. So with that being said, would the whole relationship, I assume, with your family completely change throughout the whole?
Oh yeah. Yep. I would say, and Tommy, I wish I would have met Tommy Mello before I went into business with my parents, because when I met him, he was like, dude, I'd never go into business with my parents, you know? And then,
well, he actually did.
Yeah.
His mom helped him.
Yeah.
He told me this story.
She did, but he told me that, and he's like, yeah, I would never do that.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, thanks, bro. It's it's already past due. And then also another mentor, Jeff Gear, his mom works for him still, I believe. But he told me the same thing in Nashville a couple months ago. He was like, dude, not because my parents aren't great people or I'm not a good person. It's just, you know, you're risking a lot there. You're risking a lot of
Yeah.
relationship kind of like
They
ties.
they say don't mix family and business together, because there's certain things that can be controversial, and at the end of the day, just because there's a set of, let's say, entitlement or responsibilities towards that relationship with the person, it's very different when it comes to business, when you're telling your mom or dad to like give them orders when you're used to them giving you orders.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can see that too. And Tommy did mention to me a story when he was saying how his mom was the dispatcher, the one like kind of just cold calling, and she's like, we're going to bring our best technician, and turns out he was the only technician at the time. So shout out to Tommy's mom. That's an awesome story, by the way. It just being supportive, I guess, of her son. Now he has a 9-figure company, something like that.
It's incredible.
Yeah,
man,
it's really impressive.
What he's done.
Yeah.
Yeah, but on the business side too, it's interesting. It's not fun having business conversations at your mom's house when you're trying to visit.
That's true.
So I would say also partnerships in general. Like it's for me, it's not just about family. It's just having partners in general. I was talking to another mentor of mine, Brandon Vaughn, a week ago, and we were talking about the same topic about partnerships and things like that. And it's a lot like a marriage, and you respect your wife, you communicate well, like the 5 love languages, right? You don't love your wife like how you want to be loved. You love her how she wants to be loved. Same thing with business partnerships, with family. It's like, if you don't think about these things going into the partnership, then you don't know. And see,
that's a good point.
I didn't think about these things.
It's a really great
when
point.
I first started, So I learned these things.
Interesting.
Afterwards. But
That's awesome, because the same way you look at green flags and red flags in a woman for a potential wife, right? It's not all about having that partner that's just going to have the capital to invest in your company. You need someone that has different characteristics that you align with and your core values and your morals. I never thought about it that way. That's a great point. You have to be really selective with who you bring into your business as well, because it is an extension of pretty much who you are within your personal life as well.
Yeah, and you're tied financially, emotionally. You're going to win, you're going to lose together. You're going to be sad, be angry together. You're going to win together. You're going to travel together. You're going to manage people together. And it's not always pretty. And I think it's important to just have that common understanding going into the partnership. It's kind of like when you hire an employee, and I think we've all done this, but or maybe just me, but you hire an employee and then like 6 months later you're like, yeah, I need to change that job description because I realize it's very hard to get an employee to like be like, oh yeah, no worries. You're gonna add more responsibilities and then change my schedule. Yeah, no worries. They're like no, and it doesn't really work.
And I think it's important too, because when you're starting off like in a new venture, in a new business, for example, I would mess up a few times where there's certain, let's say lines that are drawn that, let's say inviting your employee over to your home for a drink. That's not necessarily the most professional thing to do.
Right.
Like I had my camera guy one time, this was like 2 years ago, we'd go out to the bar and have a drink, all that stuff. It doesn't really align with how I should have done it, but I was trying to just be a nice guy and be like, oh, hey man, like I'll buy you lunch, let's go have a drink, this and that. But no, business is business, family's family, keep that separate. When it comes to company culture, you have your outings here and there, but I think there's a fine line, I think, for sure.
No, you're right. And I think, I forget who mentioned this. Oh, you know what? It was, it's a guy, I forget his name, but he runs a marketing company that works with tax accountants. Okay. And just an amazing follower of the Lord. This guy's an amazing leader. I can't remember his name, so maybe he wasn't that good, but I'm just kidding. But I'll never forget what he said on stage a couple years ago. And he said, our company is not a family, it's a team, because family never leaves, right? That's the the core foundation, right? Like we're family, we're always gonna be family. But in a company, if you make it a family, what if an employee leaves? What if someone gets fired and you don't see him again? Yeah. You don't fire your son, right? That's true. And so those things, I think you have to be very careful when you talk about your culture and things like this. It's like it's a team, and we're all focused on one goal. Just like the Patriots when Tom Brady was actually crushing it, Gosh, when he was sad about the Patriots right now, but kind of like that, right? Yeah. Or it's like, but a family isn't necessarily focused on one mission together or one unified mission. Yeah. Because everyone has their own stuff. That's true. And then family too, you can forgive to a certain extent. You'll give them chances, but then in the business side, you'll get written up, and there's a certain point where you have to let go of the employee. Right. And you can't have emotional ties in a sense. You have to be
heartless, which makes sense too. That's exactly why you can't hire family and friends in business.
Yeah.
It's a great point.
Yeah. So just a little thing there.
And with what you're doing right now, you know, I guess what's your end goal? Like, what do you have planned out for 5 years from now?
Yeah, man, great question. So, right now, what we're focused on is, so earlier this summer, I restructured management, and we let go of a partner, and which was a whole experience within itself. But so right now, we're basically doing product development on our products, improving products, really focused on personal development with our team. So just elevating our people, not just professionally but personally. Because if they're better people, they're going to be better people at work too. So we're focusing on people development and then product development, a lot of that right now. And then also we are in the middle of launching our coaching program. For the past 5 years, we've done for you. So it's like Stefan Painting would come and hire us. We'll run your ads for you, and then you run your business. Yeah. And I've been studying the marketplace. I've had this in the back pocket for about a year now, since like last summer roughly, kind of in development. But essentially what it is we're going to focus on the concrete coating business first, or industry first. And I'm essentially going to give all the secrets away on, like, I'm going to teach them how to actually do all their own marketing, Facebook ads, Google ads, local SEO. We're going to teach the actual contractor or business owner how to do it. But not just that, sales and a bunch of other things to maximize the opportunities, and then business systems. So developing the mission, vision, core values, systems, processes, recruiting systems. The majority of the concrete coating industry, like if you have $1 million company in the residential concrete coating space, you're in the 1%. So it's not a very big industry. It's growing, it's starting. It's not like HVAC garage doors where it's established more. Yeah. There's not even an association. So these concepts are somewhat still new to the space. And essentially all the exact same things of what we did to take Cardinal to a 7-figure company is what we're starting. So I believe the Done With You program is going to absolutely shake the industry. When we first got into marketing, we started our marketing company in 2019. There was not a single marketing company in the concrete coating industry. We're the first one, literally, which is crazy to think about, right? But that's how new it was. Wow. And so I believe this will be just as innovative as that, but a lot more intimate on growing the businesses. So instead of just running some ads, because dude, over the years, there's been so many companies that are doing 20, 30, 40 grand a month, come and hire us. In 3 months, they cancel, or we have to let go of them because it's just not the right fit. And if I think back to the first 20, 30, or 40 clients that we landed before we started hiring employees, I spent so much one-on-one time with these companies. And I think that's what helped these companies go from when they came to us doing 20 grand a month and now they're doing 500 grand a month. It's because I spent so much time with them to help them. Not that I'm like some genius, but it's just having somebody in your corner as a coach that can help you, get from A to Z a lot faster. Absolutely. Like that's, I look back and I feel like, I don't know, just like the Lord's calling me to kind of bring that to the market. I think it's going to be absolutely game changer. So that's kind of the big focus. That's awesome, man. Congrats, by the way. Yeah, appreciate it. I love your story, from being homeless to multi-million-dollar owner, running successful companies. I think that's all amazing. Just kind of wrapping it up. I know we're a little short on time, but is there anything else you'd like to tell the viewers? Any final words? No words, nothing words at all. Words of wisdom? No, let's end it right now. No. You know what, man? You know what? It's November 11th when we're recording this. Holidays are coming up. Yep. For me, I've always loved the holidays. Yeah, like Christmas time, just feel warm and fuzzy, man. I don't care if you think I'm a weak man or a beta man for saying that. I love Christmas. I love putting on the Christmas music in the holidays and just hanging out with the family. And I would just say, really take this season to get ready, right? So whatever it is that you're going through, whether it's depression, anxiety, financial, maybe it's even good stuff that's going on. There's no bad stuff. Maybe it's a relationship, your mom, your dad, whatever it is, I would just go pursue that. This like, we've got literally a month and a half until the end of the year. We're going into 2024. I don't care who the president is. I don't care who the congressperson is. Like, it's a whole different you can take control. You can take control of your life, right? Yeah. And so all I would say is, like, don't wake up on January 1st and be regretful on what you didn't do or what you did do in 2023. So I'll leave the audience with that. I appreciate it. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. I'm your host, Steven Martinez, and I'll catch you guys next time at the American Dream Podcast. See you soon. Woo! Bam!